Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in for another show. Tonight, we're going to go through some of the latest developments, especially in relation to Yemen and Gaza. Also, these recent attacks coming from the United States against Venezuela and where that could lead to, especially with the recent statements that came from the American Secretary of Defense. All of that alongside the latest from the war criminal and where things are going in relation to the ceasefire talks and the deal. Some people are talking about a deal again now, despite the fact that Donald Trump is giving Benjamin Netanyahu a total green light to continue with this genocide and blaming the Palestinian side as usual. But there are, of course, some developments from the Palestinian side. The delegation is saying we're again ready for an all-out deal. That put Netanyahu in a very tough place. The families of the prisoners of war are adding pressure on him, and he's now saying, I'm not trying to delay anything. I don't want to delay this war. However, he's still dragging the psychopathic war criminal. But let's begin with the brave ones, shall we? Let's begin with our brothers in Yemen and the recent attack that they carried out. 3 missiles on Tel Aviv in the past 24 hours, hypersonic missiles, and today the genocide state confirmed also that it had cluster munitions on the warhead, this multi-warhead missile that Yemen developed. You know, lots of people are talking now about the fact that they've got it from Iran or whatever they got it from. Whether they developed it or got it from Iran, it's no one's business, so long as they're punishing Israel with it. The only country implementing international law, the only country standing up for human rights, the only real democracy, the only true champions of human rights, giving the global fake leaders lessons in democracy, in human rights, and international law, giving lessons to the East and the West and the fake puppet regimes in the Arab world, the hypocrite Western leaders, and the Zionist bootlickers and slaves, giving all of them lessons in bravery, in honor, in standing up for human rights, in championing human rights, in implementing international law, not just talking about international law, not just bragging about human rights and democracy. No, they implement it. And they will continue to implement it, so long as there is one of them. Today, they weren't even talking about their attacks. They were busy with Prophet's marking of his birthday celebrations in Yemen. They weren't talking even. It was Israel who was telling us about the fact that Yemen was launching missiles at them today. And one of them was, of course, this multi-warhead missile. We're seeing here an escalation that is more intense than previous periods, with constant attacks day after day, multiple attacks every day, keeping Israel on tenterhooks 24/7. And they, of course, bark, you know, the parasite Zionists, they bark a lot and they threaten a lot, but they can do nothing to stop the attacks coming from Yemen. Nor can they stop the Palestinian resistance, who are doing, guess what now? They are introducing CORNET missiles in the battlefield. They've used this before, but we haven't seen it in a while. And now the Palestinian resistance published a video, a joint attack by Al-Qassam brigades and Sarai al-Quds, the armed wings of Hamas and the PIJ. A CORNET targeting what? A child murdering APC. Parasite carrier here, exploding it in broad daylight. The Palestinian resistance, 2 years after a full-blown genocide, 2 years after this whole destruction, they rise from underneath the destruction and the rubble to punish the Zionist murderers, to punish the child-killing parasites who are committing the most barbaric crimes in the history of humanity as a whole. These barbaric parasites have been killing children at such a high rate that history hasn't seen. It's like they have this joy in killing children, these Zionist murderers, over 20,000 now. Every single day there are images of children being butchered in Gaza because of these child-killing murderers. Yet, despite all of that, the Palestinian resistance is able to continue, able to introduce old new equipment, and also punish them very heavily. Now, the Israelis are understanding, some of them at least, because when we talk about Israel, it's a very sick society, and it's a society that should be studied. Like the Nazi society, like any other fascist society, the delusions, the arrogance, the racism, the hate, all of this sickness, it needs to be studied and analyzed very well. Like what Nazism was in the 20th century, Zionism is in the 21st century, multiplied by 100 million. Because of the evil intent, the level of evil intent, especially against the innocent and the weak. Total parasites. The worst scum of humanity. We haven't seen anything like that in the history of humanity. And I know there have been lots of things before, and more people were killed, and the United States and European colonizers killed hundreds of millions. We know that very well. But what these people are doing and how they're doing it, despite all of the live streaming of their crimes and how insistent they are to continue with this, we haven't seen that before. Saying all of that, some of them already know what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. Like we had several articles in Israel today talking about the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is selling the public illusions. And Hamas is far from surrendering. One columnist wrote in one of the main Israeli newspapers today, saying that basically Benjamin Netanyahu is going to Donald Trump. He's telling Donald Trump, listen, Mr. President, we're almost finished. We're almost done with all of this. Give us one more minute, one more month. We're breaking them down and we're going to be over and done with. As if, the relationship between him and Donald Trump is a normal relationship. No, it's not a normal relationship. Donald Trump receives money from the same lobby that funds Benjamin Netanyahu. No one can expect Donald Trump to have this real American president position. No. Although he has the authority and he has the power, but he's controlled by the same people. That doesn't give him an exemption. That's not an excuse for him. But the reality is the man got hundreds of millions from the Zionist lobby, and we can clearly see how much of a Zionist puppet he is. All of the America First clan and crew or people are saying, they're realizing that now. Nothing but a puppet, which is what we were saying before the man got into power, judging by his previous track record, by the way. Well-known hypocrite and liar. We saw what he did in his first term. What made people think that he's going to do something different this term? But I think many people have short-term memory. Very, very short-term memory. And what am I saying? Goldfish memory. It's like they forget what happens yesterday, and they get so easily fooled and manipulated to get people back in power. And now we're seeing that from Donald Trump. All right, so what is that going to do with Benjamin Netanyahu exactly? Because the people are criticizing him. Today, more families of the prisoners of war were telling Benjamin Netanyahu, firstly, one of them was the brother of a prisoner of war. He was saying that it seems that Hamas wants a deal more than the Israeli government. So imagine the people who are relatives to the prisoners saying Hamas want to deal more than our government does. Other families of the prisoners of war, they were also making harsh statements against Benjamin Netanyahu and threatening to escalate with more actions inside of Israel if Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't reach a deal. Another one told Netanyahu today, if you don't put a deal on the table, we will intensify the fight. Another statement came from another member of the family member of another prisoner of war, Rombar Slavsky. This was the same one that the Palestinian resistance released, looking very frail due to the Israeli starvation campaign in Gaza that its own people are suffering from. You know, it's not like the Palestinian resistance is going to give them any, do them any favors. Israel deliberately, when it has all of the food in the world and when its Minister of National Security is morbidly obese and about to explode from how fat he is, he starves the people deliberately when there is food. But the Palestinian resistance, they were feeding them when they had food. But when they stop having food and when their babies are dying because of malnutrition, starvation, it's not like the Israeli army prisoners of war, all of them, IDF, by the way, everyone remaining in Gaza. It's not like they're going to be feeding them, right? And giving them snacks or getting out of their way to get them something. No. But one of them said, if his son returns in a bag, Benjamin Netanyahu will pay a heavy price. This is the second person now to warn Benjamin Netanyahu with direct action if their son or daughter or whatever dies due to the ongoing Israeli campaign in Gaza, because they're saying this would be killing with intent due to negligence. This would be deliberate negligence from the prime minister that led to the killing of our own people in Gaza, because he had the option to go to a deal and he did not reach a deal. And the problem is some people who are involved now in the talks are... listen, if you're still fooled by Trump who's saying, oh, tell Hamas to release the 20 people and everything will be fine. Garbage, you know, BS, you know. If you're still fooled by Trump, then I'm not sure I can help you or anyone can help you. But on the ground, the negotiating delegation members have been leaking information to the families of the prisoners of war, telling them that your sons and daughters could have been with us from a very long time ago. I mean, that's just recently. They could have been with them 2 years ago. The Palestinian resistance told them we're willing to have a deal, an all-out deal immediately. They didn't accept anything. But now, Benjamin Netanyahu is saying that, listen, we have to go ahead with this war and we need to finish the job. But really and truly, I do want to finish the war as soon as possible. I want to finish the war as quickly as possible. He's giving examples of the American invasion in Iraq and the barbarism of the American and European coalition over there in the Iraq war and in Mosul, right? And then he's comparing that to Gaza as if there's anything. There's nothing similar. But he's saying it took them 9 months to get up 3,000 people, and we have tens of thousands of people in Gaza, and they have tunnels and ammunition, more complex, and we need some time to finish the job. Disregarding, of course, anything on the ground, anything realistic on the ground. This man is Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way. The only thing that he's been doing in the past 2 years is selling propaganda and lies and throwing sands in the eyes of everyone. That's the whole thing that he's been doing. Yet some people have the audacity in the United States to come and interview him. It was these Nelk boys, and then he had another podcast, PBD or whatever. Such low individuals, such depraved people giving a stage to a child-killing monster, a war criminal, killing children every single day, killing innocent women, starving people to death, talk to him, bring him, pretend like he's some sort of something rational. You see, the Israelis, they want to infiltrate the alternative media. Not that they haven't, they've infiltrated before, but now they're putting more effort because they know very well that people lost faith in traditional corporate and mainstream media. They're trying to bring back, some hope in their propaganda or asbara by talking to some depraved people who are willing to give anyone an interview for $1 or $2 or $1 million. I don't care. No principles, no honor, no integrity, nothing whatsoever. Shame on you. Shame on you and shame on everyone who can even give a stage to this person when you know what he's been committing. Hell, shame on anyone who hasn't said a word. How can you live with yourself? Your children and grandchildren are going to be asking you, what did you say when you saw this happening? Which side were you on? Were you scared? Or were you silent? Were you a coward? But some people still try and bring Benjamin Netanyahu as if he is some sort of a normal individual. No one is normal. This country is not normal. It's a parasite entity. It's an illegal entity based on theft, the bastard child of the previous British Empire that is sponsored now by the United States militaristic oligarchy. Don't tell me that's a normal country. That's not a normal country. Stop pretending like it's a normal country and pushing on the same garbage narrative that we've been sick hearing and listening to for all of this time. Spare us, please, or spare yourself. Have some dignity, have some self-respect. So he's been selling propaganda all of this time, and now he's saying that, oh no, actually I want to finish it as quickly as possible. Do you even have capacity? Do you know anything else but kill infants and women? You psychopathic war criminal. Your army is a bunch of weak cowards who hide in their tanks and APCs and go over the bodies of innocent civilians. You're not talking about it. Anyway, face to face, they would have been gone from a very long time ago. It's only the Arab leading guard dogs surrounding them that are protecting them, by the way. The authorities, the establishments, don't take it as Otherwise, if anyone come and spat at them, they would sink. So he's now saying, oh, we're going to fix it as quickly as possible so that he can, in the hope that he can attract more people to go on this, in this death machine, to be chewed in and spat out. And by the way, they can be spat out in Gaza, and he'll keep them in Gaza, by the way. One of their APCs was burning in Gaza not long ago after the resistance blasted it with either a side bomb or a Yasin 105. They kept it there. It was burning. And he kept it there, Netanyahu. Talk about the safe haven for Jewish people. More like the gas chamber of Jewish people. Israel. And he's trying now his luck. He's trying his luck by saying, oh, it's going to be quick and I'm going to finish it very quickly. And despite the fact that some European leaders are trying to pretend that they actually support a ceasefire or the rights of the Palestinian people, although we all know that they're a bunch of big hypocrites, most of them, okay? Don't get me wrong, please. Because some people will start telling you, on every word. No, most of them. There's recognition of a Palestinian state. Again, not that it changes or stops the genocide. Like any genuine action, by the way. So before you get fooled by people who tell you, oh, look, we're recognizing a Palestinian state. Any genuine action that needs to be taken now has to have a direct result on Israel's genocide in Gaza. Don't tell me you're going to recognize a Palestinian state and you're still arming Israel. Don't tell me you're going to recognize a Palestinian state when you're still recognizing Israel. Don't tell me you're going to recognize a Palestinian state while trying to dictate who's going to control this Palestinian state. And don't tell me you're going to recognize a Palestinian state that has no sovereignty and no army and nothing whatsoever. Please. As in, who are you fooling? Okay? But the Zionists and the evangelical Zionists, so the Jewish Zionists and the Christian Zionists, they're very worried. And of course, the Trump administration is also very worried. Now, he is asking Marco Rubio to start barking. What is Marco Rubio barking? Marco Rubio is bothered by the fact that some countries are going to recognize a Palestinian state. Now, don't get me wrong, recognize that, all good, but there are priorities. And the priority now is to take action to stop this pariah entity from killing children every day. That's the priority. Strip them of legitimacy, kick them off from the United Nations. Hell, kick the United States out of the UN too, or eliminate this whole UN altogether. It's pointless, really. And they're worried about this recognition. Marco Rubio is threatening European countries now by telling them recognizing a Palestinian state will create more problems. We told those countries, we told everyone, if you recognize a Palestinian state, that there is a fake, you are going to create more problems. There's going to be a backlash to this. It is only going to make things hard to reach a ceasefire and even lead to attempts at a counteraction. What is this arrogance? What heaps of arrogance, and what threats with violence as well, and intimidation. What is this? How hostile. Aren't the European countries your supposed allies who follow you like poodles? What's the problem? He is so worried about the fact that people are going to recognize the Palestinians. You know why? Because they deny the existence of the Palestinian people. Why? Because the existence of the Palestinian people is like putting a mirror in their face. They're stripped completely. They're the thieves. They are the imposters. They are the land grabbers. They are the mass murderers. They are the genocidal maniacs. So they don't want to have anything called Palestinian. They want to erase that history. Unfortunately for them, though, it's way too late. I mean, really, it is way, way too late. He's even banning the Palestinian Authority delegation from going to the United Nations to speak, for heaven's sake. He's a puppet already. Abu Mazen, the Palestinian Authority president, who doesn't move unless he's authorized by a small little genocidal maniac from the Israel Security Services, they're even banning him. Look at how they treat their own puppets, people who declare complete obedience to the Zionists and the United States. And telling you, oh, we can't, and oh, we can't. And look at how they treat them as if they're small dogs. Oh, no, you're not coming. Pay them up. And the Palestinian president, what does he say? He says, we are challenging, this move from the United States not to grant us visas. What do you think you get granted things in life? You don't get granted things in life. You fight to get things in life. You fight for your respect, for your freedom, for your own sake. No one's going to do the job for you. No one's going to bring you a silver plate and feed you with a golden spoon. No grants are granted. No rights are granted for no return here or freebies or whatever. It doesn't work like that. As a matter of fact, they want to take as much rights from you as much as possible. But that's him and people like him paying the price for being shoelaces for Israel and condemning the Palestinian resistance, and also whitewashing the genocide by saying it's the problem of the Palestinian resistance. That's what you get. A slap in your face from the same people who you worship. And you deserve nothing more than that, by the way. Because there's this whole argument coming, from some people. Oh, but we can't, but we did. And then the Palestinian resistance goes and turns this whole argument into dust within 1 second. Then Yemen diminishes this whole argument in 0.5 seconds. Who else are you trying to fool? But the Americans are worried. Not the American people. The American administration is worried about the fact that there's more recognition. Too late, my friend. You're on the way out. Please realize that. Now they were even bothered by the scenes that came from China, and Donald Trump was acting like an immature idiot by saying, oh, don't forget we helped you in World War II, and say hi to them while they're conspiring against us and whatever. Why? Because they put on a show when their army, you'll have students in any other university or college having better shows than their army or military parades. They're jealous. Really, they are jealous. And they can't accept the fact that this unipolar world order is on its way out, because it's a process. Multipolarity doesn't come in 1 second or two. No, it's a process. And it can be a very painful process too. But the American administration and the European elite as well, of course, connected. All of them are connected. And their little experiment, genocidal, satanic state are refusing to accept this reality. And they still have heaps of arrogance that will eventually wipe them off, by the way, because they're going and they're going. There's no return. And he thinks that some of these statements might make something. Now, the approach, this arrogance from the United States is clearly visible not only in West Asia, not only with China, not only with the Palestinian people, but with Latin America. The biggest victim of the militaristic oligarchy of the United States, the state-sponsored terrorism of the United States administration, is Latin America. They call Latin America our backyard. They supported cartels in Latin America. They overthrew democracies in Latin America. They had coups in Latin America, and they created havoc in Latin America. Now they're trying to ramp it up again with Venezuela. Why? Because they're calling Maduro a cartel leader. A cartel leader. He's the leader of a drug cartel. And now what did the United States do? They went on and attacked a ship, killing everyone on it because they claimed they were smuggling drugs. No proof, no evidence, no nothing. A ship sailing in the sea. The United States, shows you who the real terrorist is, goes and attacks the ship and kills everyone on it. Look at that. What did they say? They said it's a Venezuelan ship belonging to the cartel. And that cartel is run by Nicolas Maduro. And Nicolas Maduro is a man who we might actually overthrow. Now, we know very well that they have plans to overthrow Maduro. They've tried multiple times and they failed miserably. As a matter of fact, this was the little puppet that Trump himself, your supposedly America first, was trying to push to become president in Venezuela. Do you remember his face? And guess what the West did? The West said, despite the election, despite Maduro winning, he is the president and we recognize him. That's the logic of the West. We recognize you, therefore you are the valid one. If we don't recognize you, you're the baddie and everyone should follow suit. Shut up, please. Keep your arrogance and racism to yourself. Venezuela, any country can be criticized. No authority is beyond criticism. But sure as hell it isn't the United States and Western countries who are in a position to preach grand theft grand theft all across the globe for centuries. Are you going to preach now? What does he want from Venezuela? The biggest oil reserves in the world. The biggest oil reserves in the whole world, Venezuela. And he wants that. And companies in the United States want that. And Donald Trump is a businessman. Now you might ask, well then, if Donald Trump is having this approach with Maduro, and he's saying that we can, you know, there potentially might be overthrowing him. Hold on, as a matter of fact, I just I found a video earlier on from the modern day crusader Pete Hegseth, who said the following. Let's listen to him quickly.
So Nicolas Maduro, as he considers whether or not he wants to continue to be a narco trafficker, has some decisions to make, and that's all I'll say about that.
Is regime change our goal there?
Well, that's a presidential decision, and we certainly understand the indictment. We understand that $50 million. Anyone would prefer that he would just give himself up, but that's a presidential level decision, and we're prepared with every asset that the.
So this modern day crusader is talking outright about the potential of having a coup against Maduro to take him down if the president decides so. And the presenters, you know, oh, regime change on the table, as if, you know, as if they are their backyard, as if, you know, Venezuela isn't a country that has people. That's called neo-colonialist supremacy. If you don't realize that, you're blind. Wake up. And they're planning to take him down as if they're actually taking action. This is a provocation today. Them going and attacking a ship that belongs to Venezuela and them claiming it was some sort of a drug cartel. The biggest cartel in the world is the United States government. The biggest drug cartel, the biggest pedophilia cartel, the biggest terror cartel, the biggest empire of lies. You kill your own people, you traffic drugs from all across the world, your security agencies are criminals. Who are you fooling? They're trying to make us believe as if Maduro is the bad guy. And again, no, everyone criticize whoever you like. But it isn't the American administration's definition that we follow on what's right and wrong, do we? None of them, no Western leader, since the genocide began, up until now and forever, has the right to speak about anything to do with morals, with civilization, with democracy, with human rights, with any right. You lost every credibility on earth. And you showed your true face. And you still are. And they want to do the same thing with Venezuela now. So he's not just having this arrogant approach in with the Palestinian people or with Iran or with China. He is having that with Venezuela. And we knew that, of course. But he wasn't lucky. They tried to take Chavez down, Maduro several times, and go, let's see what you can do. Now you may ask, well, why is Chevron re-engaging with Maduro in Venezuela when Donald Trump is carrying out these actions? Okay, very simple. Carrot and stick. They gave an exemption to Chevron so that because Trump is about money at the end of the day. They gave exemptions to Chevron temporarily to go and extract oil from Venezuela, because Venezuela could be one of the richest countries in the world. The United States sanctions against it, global state-sponsored terrorism campaign, is the thing that put a large strain on Venezuela, especially as it sits in this hemisphere, right? Our hemisphere, our backyard. The American administration is called our backyard, Latin America. Carrot and stick. Take Maduro and we will smack you if you don't. And Hegseth himself modern day crusader Hegseth, is the man who is telling you, guys, if the president wants us to go and attack Venezuela, we'll go and attack Venezuela, as in take the regime down. The audacity that these people have, and how easily they can talk about a regime change, and how easily they can tell you that they assassinated and eliminated this and that leader, as if it's, you know, totally perfectly fine when it happens by a Western country or a Western leader. Don't be fooled by that. Plus, have you ever considered that by justifying this act of state-sponsored terrorism against Venezuela or any other country for that matter, you are legitimizing the act against yourself? So what's preventing any other country to say we need a regime change in the United States? But this is where you see where the other actors are way more reasonable than the United States and the little puppets in Europe. Way more. The ones who are hostile, the ones who are violent, the ones who are irrational and radical are the Western leaders and the United States, in their majority again. Don't take things out of context. And now that's blatantly happening yet again after all of those centuries of American involvement in Latin America, where they still are active, by the way. We saw what they did with Morales not long ago. And again, people like Elon Musk at the time, they were saying, we will coup whoever we want, wherever we want. Military coups, political coups, bringing actual cartels to power or violent organizations to power. And now they're doing it again, or trying to do it again with Venezuela. What sheer arrogance. And it shows you that the real mentality of the United States and this war criminal Donald Trump, who is turning out to be the biggest warmonger, the man who sold himself to be anti-war, the man who said, we're going to finish all of the wars in one day in 24 hours. I'm going to finish the Ukraine war. I'm going to finish the Palestine war. I'm going to... The biggest warmonger. Attacking Iran, supporting Israel, participating. Because let's not split things. Israel and the United States are one. Lobby, no lobby, one. Israel is their little stick in the region. He has been conducting acts of war and threatening with acts of war against so many countries, disregarding the sovereignty of so many countries, calling the Canadian Prime Minister governor and saying we're going to take them. What is that? That's in relation to the United States. Now, Israel is accelerating. I spoke about this briefly in one of my previous videos, but Israel is accelerating its actions in the Dimona nuclear facility. Let's have a look at this video quickly.
Satellite pictures analyzed by the Associated Press show an immense construction project ongoing at the site of Israel's long-suspected nuclear weapons program. These satellite photos are of Dimona, that's in the Israeli desert, and has a heavy water reactor that's been functioning since the 1960s. That heavy water reactor, experts say, provides Israel with the plutonium for its nuclear weapons, as well as the isotope tritium. That isotope is used to boost and also miniaturize nuclear weapons down to fit onto missile warheads. Now, the Israelis have never confirmed or denied having a nuclear weapons program, and the Israeli government did not respond to questions from the Associated Press over this construction. However, analysts who spoke to the AP, as well as the AP's own satellite analysis of pictures, show that this project could be any number of things, including what experts say could be a new heavy water reactor that could allow Israel to potentially build more nuclear weapons, or potentially service the ones they already have. That isotope tritium that I mentioned earlier decays at about 5% a year. That means in about 20 years, that tritium is gone, meaning that they'll need to continue to run a heavy water reactor to be able to have the...
Okay. Why is no one talking about this? Israel has a shady nuclear program that an Israeli Vanunu exposed 3 decades ago. Some of their prime ministers confirmed that they have nuclear weapons. Reports said that there are about 300 nuclear warheads. Why is no one speaking about this? Why is no one speaking about the fact that a genocide committing war criminal entity possesses nuclear warheads and threatens to use these nuclear warheads? And now they're expanding their operations on a site that isn't even visited or inspected by the IAEA. Yet they have the audacity to go and talk about Iran and other countries that they don't want to possess nuclear technology and say, oh no, we need to inspect and sanctions if we don't expect it. Hypocrite supremacists, I'm telling you. These people have no level to their double standards and hypocrisy. Israel could be preparing its final nukes so that it can destroy everyone around it. What did it not come across your mind that they're capable of doing that? One of their ministers, Amichai Eliyahu, his name is, he said we need to strike Gaza with a nuclear bomb. And we're seeing them killing children in Gaza. What are you waiting for exactly? What are the idiots around Israel waiting for exactly? What, waiting for them to invade you and tell you either give me your land or I'll nuke your head? Where is the logic? No logic whatsoever. Blatant hypocrisy. Serious problem. This is a huge problem. Because if we're talking about a genocide here, and we'll start talking about millions. And they consider this prospect with all of the countries surrounding Israel. It's not like it's out of the question for them. These people are depraved enough and mental enough to kill infants, newborns, shoot people for fun. Who's preventing them from pressing a nuclear button? So it isn't just like the Palestinians who are going to pay. The world is going to pay. What if they start? What's going to be the response? Who else is going to participate? Why are you letting them get away with it? Why are you not reporting about it? Why are you not talking about it? And you nag on Iran's head 24/7, nuclear, and let's check. And this man, clearly, it was the head of the IAEA after the previous one died, was conspiring against Iran. And these people were spying on Iran's nuclear program. Not going there to inspect anything. No, going there, spying on Iran. Not inspecting anything. And not saying one word against Israel and its shady nuclear program, despite the fact that they are an illegal pariah parasite state committing an infanticide and a genocide inside of the Gaza Strip. Which leads me to the following thing that I wanted to talk to you about. This is going to be very symbolic. The grandson of Nelson Mandela is going to be joining the flotilla heading to the Gaza Strip. Guys, this is going to be a huge problem for Israel, and I actually think that they still didn't really calculate how they're going to deal with this flotilla. I'll tell you why. Previously, well, they had a big problem with the Mavi Marmara when at the time they killed 9 on it, Turks. Imprisoned others too, but some of their soldiers were killed and some of them were beaten and humiliated. There were images, you can find them online, of IDF soldiers, supposedly these elite units, being beaten and crying by civilians, basically, on that flotilla, the Freedom Flotilla in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. and it was a big deal because it was a big ship. And then things kind of faded away. Now, ships, one ship, two ship, Maryland, and now we have the Samud. Previously, in the past two attempts, there were only one single boats going. Now over 50. Okay, over 50. Whether we're talking about a boat or a ship, you are talking about a much larger scale. So all of a sudden, everything grew by 5,000% to Israel and how they need to deal with it. You're not just dealing with 10 people on one ship, you're dealing with hundreds of people. And if they have more on some ships, thousands potentially, that's going to be a very big problem. And I would argue that this would even make Israel consider ending things before the flotilla comes. Why? Well, firstly, there are already some big names, some of the previous ones who joined and new people, and one of them was like Nelson Mandela's grandson. People from Pakistan, from Europe, from Africa, from the United States, actors, artists, whatever. And what are they going to do with all of them? Are they going to go and shoot them? Are they going to go and kill them? What are they going to do exactly? My argument is they actually still haven't calculated everything properly. Why? Because number one, they're limited on these special forces units in the sea. There's so much that they have. And if they would need to bring people who are not necessarily professional, they have more probability to carry out certain mistakes. If they start carrying out certain mistakes, these people are going to be recording. These people are going to be live streaming 50 boats going to break the siege. A totally legit and honorable, brave act that Israel, by the way, has no right whatsoever to touch, because they're going to Gaza, and Gaza under international law is a separate entity from what is called Israel. But Israel and its abhorrent allies try and portray it otherwise. That's why Israel will tell you, oh, well, look, we didn't do anything to Gaza, and look what they've done to us. They've been enslaving them, imprisoning them for 17 years. Blockade, nothing from the sea. You can't get out unless it's with approval. People die because of illnesses because they can't go out and be treated, making life hell and so difficult for the people. So this flotilla, it has the full right to go. And if this flotilla succeeds, by the way, that's going to break a huge barrier. Why? Because if we went from 1 to 50, we can go from 1 to 10,000 or from 50 to 10,000. Because it's 50-fold, right? So the 50 can become thousands. And if the 50 become thousands, what are they going to do? Are they going to nuke the Mediterranean? What are they going to do exactly? There's a very high likelihood, and we hope and wish and pray for their success, these people, that they will succeed. And some ships will actually reach the shores of Gaza. Because Israel has limited capabilities to take down these totally legitimate and honorable ships and flotillas going to break the siege inside of the Gaza Strip. And these were the main things that I wanted to share with you in this live stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I'll open the space up for some community participation with the time that we have left. If you have any questions for me, if you wouldn't mind highlighting them. Lynn and Michael and Aini, thank you very much for your supers, much appreciated. And everyone participating in the chat. And thanks again for tuning in. Let's see if we had any participation from earlier on, or I'm probably too late to go on earlier on now. No, if anyone has any questions now, if you wouldn't mind sending them again. Fightback is saying that that activist was trying to get up 1,000 boats. There was a lot of talk about having a 1,000 boat flotilla, a 1,000 ship flotilla, and that is a great idea. I mean, we've been talking about that for some time, and I think this is where things begin to change. Like if you go from 1 to 50, then from 50 to 100 or 250 or that can lead to 1,000 easily, by the way. There are definitely more than 10,000 people willing to go to Gaza. And so long as there is the logistics to have 50, you can have the logistics to have 1,000. Of course, Israel tried to carry out terrorist activities in Europe, by the way. They were attacking the ship near Malta. And European leaders, their mouths were sealed like cowards, like the hypocrites they are, not saying a word about this genocidal entity's terrorism reaching the shores of Europe, and instead diverting the attention of the people to cover up the barbaric crimes of Israel. So it's still a possibility. And again, we still need to monitor what happens now to base it on, you know, what happens later on. Heather said, didn't Hamas say they will release all of the hostages? Hamas already offered Israel to release all of them in a deal after the operation began in 2023. But Israel had other plans, of course. Now they reiterated that multiple times. But again, Benjamin Netanyahu is now saying that either Hamas surrenders or there is no deal, which is in fact an infinite war. Netanyahu is clearly now planning to continue, maybe contrary to previous assumptions. Maybe he's planning to win the elections again and continue the war, by the way. Although he's going to find it really, really difficult to win any elections after this, despite the fact that he will have a cult following in Israel. So nothing is looking like, you know, we're reaching an end, but there could be a surprise happening at any moment, of course, because it can't go on forever. And there are certain developments that are going to be more problematic. And if Netanyahu feels like he can't handle something, he'll try and end it. Why did they stop after 12 days only with Iran? Because they could not handle these huge hypersonic missiles slamming the heads of the child-killing Zionist parasites. They couldn't handle it. So they had to ask the United States to come and participate with a theatrical move so that the genocidal maniac Netanyahu can climb down the ladder with Iran. So if he feels like it's going to be problematic, he will stop. I'm telling you, the man will do anything so long as it's in his benefit. He could again go with another even war with Iran, by the way. And Jax, thank you so much as well for that. Much appreciated. Wendy, could you explain the Samson option? That is the option of Israel to wipe off everyone when it feels like it's about to die, in short. Netanyahu made, and the interesting thing is, we heard these statements or hints coming from Netanyahu. If we fall, the West falls. If we fall, it'll come on you. If we fall, everything is over. And it's as if he didn't say these things. But that option is there. Now, how likely will they be to use this option? We need to understand that there's an elite system internally also within Israel and within Zionism too. And the people who have reach and have power will be able to, or might be able to, try and protect themselves or flee, change names, have, I don't know, silicone masks, change identities, have operation, because Lord knows these people are going to be chased all across the world. They are being chased all across the world now, with brave people from like the Hind Rajab Foundation and other foundations, to people and individuals from multiple countries, you know, asking for them to be imprisoned as soon as they land, because when you're coming out of there, you could either be a war criminal or a pedophile or a child killer. I mean, no one is safe around these people. So imagine the leader. They will be hunted down in the future, but they will have alternative plans to try and protect themselves. Like many of the Nazi leaders found shelter in the United States, or, you know, some other kind, or remained in Germany and then became leaders of the NATO and what have you. So yeah, that's the option. And there's another option, which is the Hannibal directive that they constantly implement, which is killing everyone who is Israeli, so long as there's benefit for the state in that. They implemented that on a mass scale on October the 7th, inside of Israeli territories, on the way to Gaza and inside of Gaza as well. KZ Landscaper, do you think the uniting for peace resolution could be an option during the upcoming UN meet? No resolution coming from the United Nations will have any effect whatsoever so long as the United States is there, because the United States is the biggest barrier against so many resolutions. By using this veto, the half, if not even 3/4 of the United States vetoes were for the sake of Israel, by the way, in the United Nations. Do you know that? If they didn't veto certain resolutions, we could have been in a different place. Then you have the other argument of, even if a resolution passes and something happens, is there an enforcement mechanism? Is there an enforcement mechanism, or do you only worship the United States administration like some countries? So many questions, by the way. I mean, the United Nations proved to be very, very ineffective, to say the least, in the past 2 years, like they were before, in preventing a genocide and holding Israel accountable. Infinite content saying, if the ITF attack the grandson of Mandela, all of Africa and the entire global south will rise up against them. Mark my words. I firstly hope he succeeds in reaching Gaza, and I hope he isn't harmed or touched. But if they do, I'm sure there will be an uprising. But I think that uprising already needs to happen. All of this outrage needs to be now anyway, because of what's happening with the people in Gaza on a day-to-day basis, because of the people dying from starvation, because of the people getting killed, the innocent men, women, and children. Now, if there's any rage, it needs to happen now. Saying that, I'm sure that this will have an impact. And that's why I assume that they still didn't calculate everything properly. This is going to be very, very problematic for Israel, this campaign. 50 boats going all at once. You need a lot of resources. You need a lot of calculation. You need a lot of going through errors and faults that may happen, because they can be finding themselves in deep, deep trouble if something goes wrong. And there's a very high likelihood that something can go wrong. And I think this is probably making them reconsider. SJ, do you think that maybe targeting the murder of the Venezuelan boat was a message to the flotilla? Listen, we know that the administration of the United States is a murderous administration. It always has been. the United States is a big, large terror state. It's a militaristic terror oligarchy. And they did that all across the world. They don't mind killing innocent people because they view them as nothing. They don't mind killing their own people because they view them as nothing. So I don't necessarily think they're linked, because I don't think the people who are going on this flotilla have any sort of, every human being will have a level of fear. But I think these people going, they have a lot of bravery to do that. And they know the risks involved, including the risk on their lives. But they do understand that you need a level of risk. You need a level of risk taking when there's all of these crimes happening. And many people are, still not saying a word. And I think, by the way, although it's an option, I think it's, I don't necessarily think Israel would want to do that, because it would put them in really, really big problem. It would cause a lot of problems between them and so many other countries when their situation is already in the pits. I mean, who on earth supports them? Unless you are a parasite like them. I mean, no one supports them. When Iran was attacking them, the global population was celebrating, telling Iran, finish the job. No sympathy for the genocidal maniacs. And now, who's going to be? Again, unless you are a Zionist. Unless you are a Zionist like them, who supports them? You need to be totally out of your mind. And you need to be depraved. And you need to be genocidal. There needs to be something wrong with everything about you. So their image, there is no going back, by the way. They can spend billions on ads. They can bribe a couple of YouTubers. They can pay PBD and Nelk boys and a couple of random stupid imbeciles here and there. Well, that's not going to change the grand scheme of things. And if there are people who are still susceptible to fall into their propaganda, then they are literally walking dead. You might as well say RIP on them, because there's nothing going through their eyes, ears, or hearts. It's over and done with. So if they do something against this flotilla, there is going to be a huge problem. There's going to be a huge problem from each and every one of these countries who are already not showing any sort of sympathy to this country. And we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for another live stream. Thank you for everyone who participated in the chat. Apologies if I missed some of your questions. Lynn, Michael, Ragnild, Aini, Jax, and Infinite, thank you very much for your supers, and everyone for your participation. I'll hopefully have different segments for you in the next about 24 hours. In the meantime, everyone, stay blessed, take care, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam.